A courageous request, a carefully planned journey, and a secret nighttime inspection moved Jerusalem's restoration from prayer into action in Nehemiah chapter 2. After months of mourning over the city's broken walls, Nehemiah now stands before King Artaxerxes of Persia, where one conversation will open the way for him to leave Susa and begin the work he has been praying about. It was the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes. As Nehemiah served wine to the king, Artaxerxes noticed something unusual. Nehemiah had never appeared sad in his presence before. The king asked why he looked sorrowful when he was not sick, suggesting that something must be troubling his heart. Nehemiah was afraid. Serving as cupbearer placed him close to the king, and appearing distressed in the royal presence could be dangerous. Still, Nehemiah answered respectfully. He asked why he should not look sad when Jerusalem, the city where his ancestors were buried, lay in ruins and its gates had been destroyed by fire. Then Artaxerxes asked the question Nehemiah had been preparing for. "What is it you want?" Before answering, Nehemiah prayed to the God of heaven. Then he made his request. If it pleased the king, Nehemiah asked to be sent to Judah, to the city of his ancestors' graves, so that he could rebuild it. With the queen sitting beside him, Artaxerxes asked how long the journey would take and when Nehemiah would return. The king agreed to send him. But Nehemiah did not stop there. He requested letters addressed to the governors of the province beyond the river, so they would allow him safe passage until he reached Judah. He also asked for a letter to Asaph, keeper of the king's forest, authorizing him to receive timber for the gates of the fortress near the temple, for Jerusalem's wall, and for the residence he would occupy. The king granted these requests. Nehemiah recognized the reason for this favor. The gracious hand of his God was upon him. When he traveled toward Judah, the king also provided army officers and cavalry. Nehemiah delivered the royal letters to the governors beyond the river, but news of his arrival immediately troubled two men, Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official. They were disturbed that someone had come seeking the welfare of the Israelites. Nehemiah eventually reached Jerusalem. For 3 days he said nothing publicly about his plans. Then, during the night, he quietly left with only a few men. He had not yet told anyone what God had put in his heart to do for Jerusalem. Only the animal Nehemiah rode accompanied the small group. Beginning at the valley gate, he traveled toward the jackal well and the dung gate, carefully examining Jerusalem's broken walls and burned gates. He continued toward the fountain gate and the king's pool, but the rubble became so severe that there was not enough room for his animal to pass. So Nehemiah went up the valley during the night, continuing his inspection before returning through the valley gate. The officials still did not know where he had gone or what he intended to do. Nehemiah had not yet spoken to the Jews, priests, nobles, officials, or others who would eventually carry out the work. Only after seeing the damage for himself did he speak. Nehemiah told them plainly about Jerusalem's condition. The city was in ruins and its gates had been burned. He called them to rebuild Jerusalem's wall so that they would no longer live in disgrace. Then he gave them another reason for hope. He told them how the gracious hand of God had been upon him and what King Artaxerxes had said. The people's response was immediate. "Let us start rebuilding," and they began preparing for the work. But opposition was already waiting. When Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite official, and Geshem the Arab heard about the plan, they mocked and ridiculed the builders. They even questioned whether Nehemiah and the people were rebelling against the king. Nehemiah did not retreat. He answered that the God of heaven would give them success. His servants would arise and rebuild, while their opponents had no share, claim, or historic right in Jerusalem. Nehemiah too shows an important progression from the prayer of chapter 1. Nehemiah prayed, but he also planned. He asked God for favor, but when the opportunity came, he knew what he needed: permission to travel, letters for safe passage, timber for construction, and eventually the cooperation of Jerusalem's people. That gives this chapter its practical message. Prayer and preparation are strongest when they lead to purposeful action. Waiting on God does not necessarily mean remaining inactive. There are moments to pray, moments to investigate, moments to plan, and moments when we must finally begin. Nehemiah did not start rebuilding blindly. He understood the problem, assessed the damage, and then invited others to share the vision. Now the words have been spoken. Let us start rebuilding. Nehemiah chapter 3 will show those words becoming visible across Jerusalem as priests, families, craftsmen, officials, and ordinary people take responsibility for different sections of the wall and gates, each working on a particular part of a much larger mission.